It's the Redirect Podcast. Search industry research, discussion, and analysis from the Black Truck Media and Marketing Headquarters. And now, redirecting you to the Black Truck team.
Welcome to episode 60 of the Redirect Podcast. It's Friday, October 19th, 2018. I'm Jason Dodge, founder of Black Truck Media and Marketing. I'm joined this week by Ashley and Patrick from the Black Truck team. Hey, happy 60th episode.
Hey.
Right?
We're old.
60. Whoa.
That's retirement age, right? Or we have to hit 67 now, right?
It depends on when you would like to start drawing on your IRA.
Okay, we're going to drop the mic at episode 67.
Okay.
We're out.
Wait, peace.
Yep. Probably not. We'll keep going.
Yeah.
We'll keep going. That's what everybody says. If you enjoy what you do, you just keep going. So the show must go on.
That's right.
All right, so not a whole lot moving and shaking in the industry this week. Partially, full disclosure, I think we've all had our heads down, going through a lot of projects and reworks of things. So not a whole lot to report there. Pat, you did a little bit of traveling this week. You went down to Chicago and met up with our friends at Google. A part of the Google partners, especially with some of the other Google partner Premier folks, and hung out with them for an entire day and talked nothing more than attribution the whole day.
Yeah, being located here in Grand Rapids, we're kind of strategically located in Chicago. We can get there in less than 3 hours if you leave at 5:30 a.m.
And you pick up an hour.
And pick up an hour, yeah. So 3 hours there, but you get there in 2.
Whoa.
Whoa. Yeah.
Did you drive 88 miles an hour?
I did. I left a couple of streaks on the highway. Yeah. My license plate was spinning.
Ooh,
Can you picture it, audience? Can you see what we're talking about?
When I edit this, I'll make sure I get some. I'll get some
sound effects?
Marty McFly in there.
Great Scott! Yeah, so I was out there for part of their expert series program, and it was focused on search attribution. And their big push right now is in the artist formerly known as AdWords, ads.
Yes.
The
platform.
The platform.
Formerly known as
yeah,
AdWords.
That. The default conversion tracking method is a last click model, and the world is starting to realize that is a terrible default.
Can you define that real
Sure.
quick, because there may
Yeah.
be, I mean, I think a lot of times we probably, truth be told, the Redirect Podcast is our weekly opportunity to absolutely geek out on a lot of things search related and industry related. However, I think sometimes we also, I don't want us to alienate an audience. It's like, I have no idea what the hell they're talking about.
Sure, right. So there's several different types of attribution models, but to keep it simple, we'll go with a first click and a last click model. Last click would be, did you go immediately from the click on the ad to the conversion point?
Very logical thing.
Yeah, let's say the conversion point is a sale of a product or filling out a contact form as a lead of some sort. So that would be last click. So the last click before you fill out the form was the ad. First click method would be, let's say you clicked on that ad, went and got your data from the site, you learned, you researched, you went around the web, looked around, did your homework. 1 week later, you came back and you filled out that contact form to learn more. That would be a first click. There's time decays, there's linear, there's different cross devices, different ways to do that in there, but the default is always last click. And the problem is, you might not get your credit. If you do a last click, in that first click example I gave, clearly the searcher learned of your product, whatever device you're selling, advertising, through the Google ad. But in the last click methodology, that example, the conversion would not have been applied. You would not have gotten
an
credit.
organic search or referral or direct.
You as an ad manager, when you're giving your report back to your client, would not have seen that little tick notch in your success in there. So for some reason, that's always been the default. Well, as technology advances and there's more and more opportunities to track this, we're leaning more towards a first click. And here at Black Truck, it's something that we've always touted is to stay away from the last click. And I guess for me personally, Jason, you trained me on AdWords. I always have been off a last click, and I didn't realize how prevalent that was. And it's a pretty big deal how many people out there are still using last click and are very confused by last click. Apparently, a lot of agencies bill on a last click conversion methodology.
It's that's a terrible billing model, so fiscally irresponsible. B, I think it goes back to, and if you want to hear all about it, Ashley went to great length on episode 59. So just even if you jump back one episode, is when she talked about how many touch points it actually takes for most people to make a conversion. So again, if we fast forward to this discussion and kind of combine those two, if it's a last click and most people don't convert on the first visit, well, what if your organic search efforts are actually what introduced that person to the product, but then they converted through the paid search ad?
Yeah.
Versus what if they came in and were introduced to the product or the brand through paid search efforts, but then on the backside converted directly or organic or through social.
Right.
Attribution is a really sticky wicket right now. It's something that analytics, Google Analytics, is terrible at.
Right.
Google's been taunting that we're going to do something about it, and they haven't.
Right.
AdWords, Google Ads, at least we have options. So
Yeah, and it's definitely something that needs to, case by case, individual conversion point by conversion point with all of your profiles, all of your different accounts that you manage. If you're an agency, you should go through and double check all this.
100% agree. I mean, and I think would you say, and I would be curious to know what they coach you on, if there are things that maybe we can't share based on that was a fairly exclusive thing that you were a part of. Let's respect that. But it's a pretty easy progression to go from last click model to, depending on the type, what it comes down to attribution selection is it depends on the type of business.
Right.
First click might be applicable, or time decay might be applicable.
Yeah.
So if you can explain maybe a little bit more about time decay too, because
Sure.
that's a good one that we like to use here as well.
Yeah, let me just flip my pages through my notes. You can probably hear that. Another one that's in a beta test and not available for everyone is a data-driven conversion point, and it's kind of a combination of everything.
Data-driven is great.
Yeah, I personally don't have any accounts that I've come across that data-driven is available.
It's going to be, my understanding from our education with the Google team is you're talking those high, I don't want to say high net worth, that sounds terrible, but like high spend, fast moving accounts, particular industries, but you have to plug in some details in there, right? I mean, you have to plug in things like profit margins, industry that you're accountable for, so there's like a standardized profit margin or code to follow, and so it's a much more algorithmically driven.
Yeah, it also helps to have place of value on a conversion.
Agreed.
So if your conversion is simply a lead from a contact form, what is that valued to you? You know, if you can find a way, even if it's just a rough number, so the algorithm can start building, input something, and it can start to build that data and create a model off that. With their automation.
If you're a roofing company, while it might be hard to say, each roof is different.
Right.
There's got to be an average. A bread and butter, it's a $10,000 roof, $13,000 roof. At least if you could plug that in,
right,
and start to model it.
That's on a closed sale. That's not necessarily the lead.
Agreed.
Right. So there's going to be some gray area, and it's definitely going to be case by case, industry by industry, individual business by individual business on what you want to establish on that one. But it doesn't even have to be perfect to start with, just so it can start building. If you want to throw $10 in there for a conversion, depends on the conversion. Is your conversion a purchase? Is your conversion a contact form? Is your conversion a landing on a certain page? How do you measure value of landing on a certain page? Well, that's going to be up to the business owner.
So you're saying, so if I'm reading into this a little bit more to help define it, I think that in order to come up with the proper attribution model for your company, for your business, you need to understand what the conversion or goal is.
Yeah.
Duh. What's the time to that conversion, right? Are we talking that these projects, even when they come into the queue, it's 2 to 3 years? Or are we talking, I'm buying a package of socks?
Right.
Way different. So a package of socks versus a refrigerator versus a boat versus I'm completely re-kitting out my enterprise IT and server needs, right? If that makes sense, cloud capabilities and backup and security and stuff. Those are distinctly different needs, and the attribution should be set up accordingly.
Right. So the different types, it's pretty straightforward on a last click, first click, where the credit lies. With the other ones, we have a time decay, linear, position based. That gets cloudier as far as who gets credit on the conversion, and the answer is it's blended. It's mixed. So you get fractions at that point, and like a time decay, maybe 40% of the conversion goes towards the front, and then it goes down to like 10-20% in the middle, and then you throw another 40% on the last click. There's still some areas for me to learn on this, because for me, I got to do it to learn it proper.
So time decay will give you, the time decay is very much a percentage based, and I would say, we use a bit of time decay based on our clients' needs, and it works really well. What you run into navigating that, and that you have to educate a client or educate your higher ups on, is there's the potential for what is known as a repeat rate. The repeat rate could be 1, which might as well be nothing, or 1.6 or 1.16, or which means that individual has repeated the conversion process twice. Meaning they came in through one method and then came in through another method and then converted. With the time decay model, what ends up happening is they place a weight. It's a weighted average, and so the higher the weight gets placed toward the closest to conversion. So the closer you are to that actual end conversion, the more weight gets placed on it.
Right.
Now, if you are selling, I would say that any high ticket dollar value items, time decay model is a good place to start if you're migrating away from last click. Would you agree, or do you think you disagree with that?
So they kind of coach us that, let's say you're, to play the same kind of audience that you just said, they put 3 categories on the last click / time decay model. Would be conservative growth strategy, you're a market leader, and you have low competition. On the opposite side of that, if you want to go position-based or first click, you want to be growth-oriented, new to market, or high competition. So that gives you, it just depends on, like, for example, if you're a lawyer, you'd probably want to stick with first click or position-based because it's highly competitive, and you want to be, your goal is growth. If you're just out there keeping your audience aware, you don't have a lot of competition, and you're a well-known industry product, consider looking at like a time decay or a last click.
I do think, too, it's worth noting that these attribution models, as of right now, are available for search. They are not available for display.
There are some versions available for display.
Correct. Yep, but you're fairly limited. So it's more, the attribution is much more robust in a search world.
Right. So when you start working on a last click model, you get this window of time on how long it takes to get to a conversion. And there's different attribution reports inside the new ads platform that you can go in and reach, and it'll tell you the time it takes to get to a conversion. And it could be not a whole number. And for example, it might be 3.98 days it takes you to get to a conversion. And something that they made a really strong point to pass along that Jason and I haven't discussed with you here yet is when you're doing your reporting and reviewing for last month, if you have a 5-day window that it takes your conversion to come through, and if you're looking at last month's results on the 3rd day of the month, you're not getting a full window.
That's a great point.
They made the point to review last month's at least on the 5th day of the month, because if you have a 4-day path, if you have a 4-day path to your conversion, and on the 4th day of the month, that conversion will backdate to the previous month. So if you sent your report already, you did not send your client.
So you almost need to be making sure, like if when you're doing monthly reporting, it's not if, you should be. So note that, let's say right now you're reviewing what happened in September. You almost want to go back and double check what happened in August at this point and say, hey, are your numbers real? Did everything check out?
Yeah.
You know, and I think we've been fairly successful with integrating with other things. I actually love it when we can, especially in a B2B lead gen situation, when we can integrate that data with things, whether your CRM is HubSpot or Salesforce or Marketo or something like that, where on the client side, on our clients, they can actually see really closely a one-to-one by date and timestamp when that conversion path happened. To be able to quickly connect the dots. There have been occasions as of recent where they're not directly one-to-one. I think a lot of it has to do with the point that you just brought up, that you actually need to go back and revisit that conversion window time and say, actually that person came in 2 months ago and just converted.
Yeah, actually, I actually thought about you when that subject came up, because I know that you and I have tried to line up data points before, and we were kind of pulling our hair out trying to figure out why these two numbers, depending on the source, weren't matching.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about knowing the data that's in front of you.
Agreed.
You can collect all the numbers in the world, but you got to know how to read them and when to read them.
I agree, and I think that the more consumable the good is, the easier it is to come up with an attribution model. The longer or more drawn out or the more expensive the purchases, or complex, absolutely. Think about it this way. We always say, again, if you're buying a candy bar versus buying a boat versus, any high dollar value product requires more research and more time. So you really want to think about that and how that correlates to your attribution model that you're thinking of. And you need to you have to break it down to help people understand. Don't just jump into a new attribution model, throw it out there and be like, well, boss, this is what we've got. Because you have to be able to walk them through that. I think we have the privilege of working with some really great clients that we get to work with who have invested in technology on their end that allow them to track sales and prospects and things in their CRM, whether they're a home services type company or whether they're a boat manufacturer. They know generally where things are at, and we can help them connect the dots. I think that's huge.
Right.
A huge step in a better attribution model.
Right. There's like 40 pages of notes here.
Are you going to share them all? Because
No,
we've killed
I'm
17
not.
minutes in 58 seconds.
I think we should move on, because we covered quite a bit of this, and we've killed 17.25.
We're now at
minutes
18,
now.
so it's okay. You guys
All
want
right.
to keep going?
Yeah.
All right.
That's good.
No, it's really good. I really am glad. I think that you guys know I do not toot our own horn a lot, and I think it's really great that you were able to go down there. It's a fantastic opportunity, and we were presented with, and we certainly will take and I call them our friends at Google, because they really are. I mean, we can curse them on this organic search side, but really we have a great team as being a Google Premier partner, and we'll continue to work with them as much as we can and tap them for insights. So.
And they had to build your own taco bar too.
The question is, did you go beef or chicken?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Awesome. All right, Ashley.
Yeah, I'm gonna shift gears. I guess we're still gonna kind of stick in the Google world a little bit here, but
Are you gonna talk about content?
no.
Dang it.
My other topic of choice, local.
All right.
So we've had some internal discussions lately about tools for tracking local keywords locally. And this isn't exactly a solution for in-depth tracking,
No, but there's some secret sauce coming that we can't do.
well, it is a new way to gain some insight into how people are searching locally and what queries are surfacing your business in local results, most specifically in Google's local results and maps. So I don't know if you've seen anything about this yet. It was announced a couple months ago that, I think that even earlier than that, that Google was going to be rolling out queries in Google My Business Insights.
Oh, that's right. You maybe had touched on that, or at least we talked internally in passing about it.
It was, so it was announced this summer, and it didn't actually roll out to everybody until about the end of August. So everybody should have access to this now. If you log into Google My Business, assuming that you have a Google My Business account, and then you go into the Insights view when you go to manage your listing, at the very top now, where you used to see like just graphs, at the very top you'll now see queries used to find your business. And you can change the time span to be the last week, the last month, or a quarter's worth of data now. I guess the quarter view is new, so that's good to get a big chunk of data. So it will show you the query and how many unique users found you through that query.
Oh, interesting.
Now I try to get a little bit more specific on that, but I didn't have any luck. Google's a little bit vague on whether a user finding you means that you showed up in the local pack or a map, or that somebody actually clicked on your Google listing. You know, whether you...
So there's a gray area there still on did they click or did they view or what did they do? Okay.
Yep, so I'm not 100% on that, but regardless, you appeared. So... yeah, I spent some time looking through some accounts that I managed to see just what was there, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if that data changes over time, or just what kind of insights you can get, because it's actually different data than what you will see in Google Search Console. And that's because Search Console will report on impressions and clicks from organic search, as well as Google My Business, where the Google My Business Insights will show unique users that found you through those local Google results. So I have to credit Joy Hawkins for this, because she wrote about this on Search Engine Land. There's actually instances when, be it on desktop or mobile, your local result will show up in the local 3-pack or a map. It could possibly appear without your website. There's instances where it will just show the option to call, or it might show an image associated with your business listing. And in those cases, that will be counted differently. For instance, it'll still be counted in the Google My Business Insights because it was a quote-unquote impression, though that's not the term that they use there. Whereas in Search Console, that won't count as an impression because your website did not appear in that listing.
Man.
Yeah.
So that's what that really comes down to in a lot of these things. So what Patrick touched on, and even what you're talking about as local search has evolved, and it's one of the areas that we say is, we often comment on as probably the most volatile. It's a constant moving target, as if SEO wasn't. SEO in general. It becomes much harder to report on.
Yeah.
It becomes much harder to explain. And so whether you're in-house or agency side, you need to work on the way in which you're educating your constituents, the decision makers, the people who are funding your project, your program, your agency, to help them kind of walk through that and where that's important. Well, not to railroad your complete talking point, but where do you think this value lies? Like, what type of business would this type of information be more beneficial than, say, I'm going to go look at Search Console data?
I would say definitely, I would say local-based businesses.
Well, we're all local-based businesses, right?
Well, yeah, but...
You can call me an asshole, it's okay.
Well, I'm going to turn the question on you then.
Okay. So I would certainly say that anybody that has a very strong hyper-regional focus, right? Okay. So we can't just say local-based business. I get where you're going, but hyper-local, regional emphasis, whether I have multiple locations, it's a brick-and-mortar store, I'm either service or product-based. We've talked about it internally that the flaw in even reporting on keyword data nationally for a company that is based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a tier 2 or 3 city, and you largely serve most people here locally, why are you worried about your rankings at a national level? You should be worried about what's happening at a regional level, at a city level. I think this information that you have in front of you on your screen is much, much more beneficial than most companies give credit.
Yeah, and I think, it is flawed also because we don't know exactly if it means someone actually engaged with your business.
Agreed.
And we don't know, we know how many unique users found you through that query, but we don't know if they clicked. We don't know, there's a lot of unknowns. But I think, yes, from a behavioral perspective, being able to see how people are searching in a way that you are surfacing, and then you can use that insight to alter your messaging
and I like that the key phrase that you use there is behavioral, right? Which gets into intent, which it's not the how, it's also the why. You have to understand that information. I think that's really a key point in that whole thing.
Yeah. Now, if only Google would make you would make it so that you could export the data. That would be useful.
Well, think of it this way though too. There have been some folks that have been successful. You can port that data into Google Data Studio, and then Data Studio is going to give you the opportunity to say, "Hey, I want to export this as a CSV." So you could, in a roundabout, if this then that way, do it. The fact that information is available now, pulling that into a custom dashboard for in Google Data Studio, I think that's the next logical step for anybody that's really focused on that. Also don't rely on one tool.
No, of course not. Especially because I wasn't going to say this, but since you mentioned that, as with all data, use your best judgment, because we apparently attracted 21 users via the query roller coaster near me for Black Truck Media and Marketing. So
we're a roller coaster?
A lot of the other stuff checked out though.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yeah, we showed up for 21 people for roller coaster.
Did we make reference at one point of what a roller coaster this industry is?
I don't know. We should go optimize for a roller coaster. There aren't many nearby, so that's another opportunity.
Right.
SEO guys, get it figured out.
Maybe the front car, is it called a car or a truck in a roller coaster?
Oh.
I don't know.
I think I just answered that by calling it the front car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we want to go down that? Save that for
Let's
another
make
episode.
sure that we really write this out thoroughly when we do the episode synopsis.
Yes.
So I would say I'm going to put it out there right now. Here's me holding people accountable. This sounds like a great follow-up blog post. And I think that we could expect some additional information, maybe even with some screenshots or a video in how to look at this information in the coming weeks.
Okay.
And we'll work together on that. So
Sounds good.
cool. All right, so I'm switching gear completely. I'm going back to our favorite topic of 2018, but I'm going to start it with a question. And we finally hit a plateau with voice search? Yeah! Have marketers finally gotten down from the voice search soapbox? So we know voice search is not going to be the next big thing, and we've covered it at large to a lot of extent in other episodes of the Redirect podcast. Now, of course, it is a disruptor that we know of. Google calls it as eyes-free searches off of our devices, but the fact of the matter is it's not driving commerce currently like many people think it will. So, if you want to have a discussion with your CEO or the C-suite, I'd love to have that conversation, but we'd probably be walked out of the room. So let's sidestep voice search and get into the world of conversational AI, or conversational artificial intelligence. So I'll define it real quick. So what is conversational AI? It's very much the next level progression in natural language processing. And it's pretty cool. So in a recent piece from Search Engine Land, really great article, they disclose there's 3 different ways that people can engage with a search engine. This is currently 3 basic ways. Typing or text, so a traditional search, voice or conversation, and an image search, right? We know that the future of that is coming. Take a photo, search for it. The biggest difference between voice search and conversational is that conversational is ongoing. So instead of simply saying, hey Google, show me Mexican restaurants near me or nearby or by me, it's very much a conversation where you are continuing that. So the idea is that you're engaged with applications like Google, Siri, Alexa, Cortana. You're asking ongoing questions. So when Cortana responds or when Google Assistant responds, it might respond in an open-ended question. We've discussed this before in previous podcasts, probably around the beginning of the year, of things where it came down. I think the example that Ashley used, if I remember, was like a hair salon or a beauty salon, where you basically are engaged with the bot. Duplex, yep, to more or less schedule or get you up to the point of scheduling your appointment. That's conversational AI. The interesting thing, dun dun dun, is that we'll argue all day long is that you are engaged with the personal assistant and not the search engine, okay? So that's how it's always been. That's probably how it will always continue to be. The fascinating thing with it is that the direction is, are we saying goodbye to the age of touch as the primary interface? So as voice assistants increase, how people engage, where those results are coming from, we are primarily still focused on producing strategies and programs that are very much in a touch-oriented world when we don't think about the eyes-free side of it. Now, we have been talking at great lengths over the past probably 18 months about natural language progressions and natural language search, your content being written, how to prepare for that. We have a lot of different information out there. But as the AR and VR technologies that we currently have continue to grow, I think that typed searches will continue to change depending on the industry. So what Search Engine Land goes on to say is that voice search is all about position 0 and owning your graph, which I kind of completely LOL about because, duh. We know that if you say, okay, Google, what is the square root of 285, it's the featured snippet that's going to give you those results back. It is fascinating, though, that when you talk to people, professionals, students in academia world, things like that, they're blown away with the fact that that's what's being read back to you. And that you have the opportunity to own that space.
I want to provide a little feedback on that too. My biggest argument was always, no, give me next result. We don't have a way to do that.
Right. After the search.
Yeah, after the search. And so I think this whole entire AI and artificial intelligence and voice search thing initiated. The conversation kind of, if you squint, was when we started talking about featured snippets and how to get featured snippets. I showed this to the team here the other day, and we didn't go into it deep. I think featured snippets have been around long enough now. Moving into the voice search and the search assistants now, we're at a place now where those sites that gained those featured snippets are now starting to have spaces where we could have a 404 or a site's been removed. It happened to me the other day, and I showed this to you guys. I was doing we just moved into the cold season here, and prepping my fireplace, my wood-burning fireplace at home, and I was doing research on creosote sweeping logs.
Oh, yeah.
And so I searched, do creosote sweeping logs work? And I got a featured snippet but I wanted to continue through, so I clicked the link to follow through, or touched, it was my phone, and the site had been removed. It wasn't a 404, the site had been removed due to some type of violation or lack of pay or something, I don't know, server issues, I don't know. But it was an active featured snippet for a relative common subject, I would think, and the site was gone. The site didn't live anymore. So what is that going to start doing? If we start incorporating into this whole push that we had before to gain these featured snippets, but now the sites are starting to, that were featured, that are now indexed as a featured snippet, that aren't getting a lot of competition, are failing. What's going to happen?
Hey, I mean, if you're a competitor, you better be capitalizing on that, because that's the opportunity to strike. I think that there's an opportunity there that the stat is somewhere between 40% to 80% of those that are read back are from a featured snippet.
Right.
Okay. So, but then there's also a ridiculously low stat that it's something like 5 or 10% of the brands actually own a featured snippet. So, the opportunity is still very ripe for the picking. That's where things like schema markup and structured data and understanding that and including that in to pass through to the knowledge graph and claiming all of your business listings and making sure it's up to date. It goes beyond thinking of local SEO as strictly used for local search and more about business data and intelligence and making sure that I don't care if you're Black Truck Media here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, we serve a clientele base that's nationwide, like we probably should own all of our spaces that we can, right? So I don't care if you're brick and mortar, do B2B, like you should own your Google My Business. You should own your address in Facebook. All of those things. It tells and feeds that information into Google for when someone's looking for your brand, voice search type, it doesn't matter. But I think one thing that they really do a good job of pointing out is that what we're going to understand is how people engage in conversational AI. So this very much is from Christy Olson, who is at Microsoft. She's a part of the Bing team. No doubt she probably is working through Cortana, which is actually very impressive from a voice data perspective. But what they're learning is that for voice assisted search, the top 80% of queries, and I quote, text-based searches typically range between 1 to 3 words. So these conversational pieces tend to be 4 to 6 words. So they run in there. They're much longer than a text-based search. People are engaging with the digital assistants as if they were having a real conversation in person. So they're asking questions in full sentences, which help us, as we know, to give full signal of intent, right? You can pull that data from Search Console for most part and other tools. So there's an opportunity to think about, again, about the questions that your customers and your clients are asking. Are you including all of that information? When you are writing your content, are you writing it in a similar language that they're using when they're asking that question? We had this conversation, continue to have this conversation with a reminder. There is always a difference between what you might want to call it, especially if you're in a technical industry, and what you think the engineering team or your IT team or whoever is calling it based on a buzzword or internal lingo versus who that decision maker is. If that decision maker is a frontline project manager or their C-suite, they're not using the same lingo that you and I are on the engineering floor. Not at all. They're probably a step or two below you or 5 parts removed. You need to have both angles included in your content to fulfill clearly, I think, current and future direction of content marketing, and absolutely to even get your name at the table when it comes to conversational AI or voice search. So I'll end it with that. I don't want to go much longer on that. I think there's a lot more that's going to come out of conversational AI and chatbots and things like that. But man, really good information. So Pat, your point of advice really is, good Lord, audit your Google Ads accounts and look to see if you are still on a last click attribution model. If you are a brand and you are working with an agency, pressure them on this and see why in which they're using a last click attribution model. And Ashley, to your point, your point's exactly there. Local search is becoming much more important to what it is that we do as SEOs, I think, as a whole. And being able to pull that data at the local level is going to be really smart, especially if Google wants us to continue to invest in their products, right?
Yep.
And then obviously conversational AI. Long live voice search, Pat.
I made a prediction at the beginning of the year, and you basically just told me I was right. So,
All right, well, cool. All right, until next time, good luck.
This has been the Redirect Podcast. Check out the show notes at blacktruckmedia.com and add us on iTunes and Stitcher.